Jumbo.
Jumbo.
Welcome. You are joining us at Operation Power,
Yes.
a voice for Black radical politics and revolutionary change.
That's right.
We come to you each Thursday at 7 p.m. on Black Power Media Reloaded, and we're so pleased that you're joining us. We've got an exciting topic. We're going to be talking this evening about the legendary P.O.W.E.R. Going to find out more about him if you don't already know. We've got two exciting guests that will be joining us. But first, we want to just let you know my name is Inez Barron, and I am the co-host along with my husband, the bold, the outspoken, the indomitable, the one, the only, the unbought, and the unbossed.
But most importantly, the humble servant, Charles Barron. And it's honor, as I say each and every week, to be on with the love of my life, my wife of 43 years, the stunningly beautiful,
thank you,
and the intellectually brilliant Inez Barron.
Thank you. We've got two exciting guests that are going to be joining us, Brother Paul Muhammad and Sister Colette Peen. You'll be hearing from them shortly. But we like to start our programs with a libation, talking about honoring our ancestors, those who have gone before, who have paved the way for us, who have endured so many atrocities and given so much and dedicated their lives to making sure that this liberation movement continues and moves forward and has passed that torch on to us for us to continue with the gifts and talents and responsibilities that we have. So we're going to have a brief video of a libation that we're going to share with you now. Our engineer is Kiru Gichiru, and he's bringing that up.
For African people, nothing important happens without a libation. And so for this very important presentation, we begin by the pouring of libation. We pour libation first to our first ancestor, to that hidden one who, though hidden, manifests in all things as all things, that God-Goddess idea in the universe by any and all names. To our first ancestor, we pour libation, Ashe. We pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the first people on this planet, mothers and fathers of all mankind, flashpoint of the human family. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the ones who first gave birth to the idea of civilization, knew we would need a form of governance, and they nurtured that idea along the Nile until it reached its zenith in Kemet. There they built these gigantic monuments as evidence of that great civilization, and they carved instructions on the walls of temples and tombs for us, so we would never forget. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to our ancestors because over time they put together all the tenets of civilization and they took those ideas and left the continent. They were the people of the first Exodus. They left Africa and went all over the world and peopled the world. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. We pour libation too to our ancestors because they did not sit on their laurels. They continued to improve, continued to evolve, and at each point of evolution, they again would leave the continent and settle and resettle the planet. They met themselves coming and going. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to those ancestors because over time, they found themselves the object of a forced exodus when they were kidnapped, shackled, cargoed, shipped out of Africa and enslaved in diasporas around the world. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to the ancestors left at home, the very young, the aged, the infirm, left to reinvent themselves, depleted of us, human resources. But they were enjoined by us in the diasporas, both objects of a global myopia that ruptured the soul of a people as it ravaged a continent. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to those ancestors because over time they began to remember who and what they were. Because no matter where they had been dropped off, they still retained bits and pieces of who and what they were. They retained that African core that described them. They began to remember bits and pieces of a song. They began to remember lines from a rhythm. They began to remember dances that they did in ancient times. They began to remember those ancient drum beats that they now beat out on bare skin. And so to those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to them because they then began to teach each other They began to resurrect and reconstruct that history and that culture. They became the new Africans wherever they were. They became the new teachers, preachers, archaeologists, the new singers, dancers, the new drummers, the new Jalia. They reconstructed that history and our culture and became new Africans everywhere. So to those ancestors, we pour libation. Ashe.
Asheo.
Asheo.
Thank you so much. We know that our ancestors are cheering us on, yes, expecting great things of us, and we have the capability and the commitment to make sure that we do our part.
And our latest ancestor is P.O.W.E.R. And we know that he's looking down upon us right about now.
Ashe.
Ashe.
We're going to share with you briefly a video of Operation Power, talking about our origins and what some of the accomplishments are that we have been able to make as we have been working in the grassroots level in our community here in the East New York section of Brooklyn. A brief video. Thank you, Keith.
Operation Power stands for people organizing and working for empowerment and respect.
Operation Power is a grassroots social justice organization founded by local community stakeholders, which includes activists, organizers, and leaders who understand that the system as it is currently structured is destroying us and our communities.
The system, the capitalist system, one that promotes human greed over human need, one that promotes profit over people, needs to be dismantled. These local community organizers recognize capitalism needs to be destroyed and replaced with socialism.
Operation Power was founded in 1997 with the understanding that uprooting capitalism needs to begin locally. Operation Power understood that our communities are the perfect vehicle to dismantle this parasitic capitalist system brick by brick, and the economic, political, and cultural institutions and other systems in place in our local community infrastructure. Whether it's the local school board, community board, city council, state assembly, all represents mechanisms to control the destiny of our people.
In 1997, Operation Power launched the campaign Charles Barron for City Council that would lead to over 20 years of radical changes in the East New York community. These changes included over 20,000 units of housing affordable to our community, 3 $88 million schools, over $110 million secured and allocated for community parks, millions secured for library upgrades, and another $42 million for the construction of a new library. Thank you so much. And we know that you've got lots of books in your library, and we want to recommend some more that you can add to your collection. So the first one is a book written by Charles Barron, and it is entitled Speaking Truth to Power. And it is a collection of about 80 or so articles and essays that have been written over time, issues relevant to the Black community and moving forward. The second one is It's Not You, It's Capitalism, Why It's Time to Break Up and How to Move On. And the author is Malika Jabali, a young lawyer, very vocal, very outspoken, very analytical in an analysis of what capitalism, how it affects us. The next is a novel written by Kevin Barron. It is entitled Black Rising. It is a powerful book. It's a page turner. And once you pick it up, you won't put it down until you finish, believe me. So make sure you've got the time to do that. The second is called Black Rising Home and Abroad. And it's the second in the trilogy. And it continues the theme and the characters that were introduced in the first book. And the last one in the trilogy is called The Threat, also by Kevin Barron. You can get all of these books online at Barnes & Noble, and we do encourage you to add them to your collection. Well, here we are talking about our topic, P.O.W.E.R, the great, the legendary, the impactful, the silver-voiced radio person, but more than just that, P.O.W.E.R. And we've got two guests that had close relationships with him, And we have Sister Colette P.O.W.E.R of the December 12th movement who'll be joining us. And we have Brother Paul Muhammad, a student minister of the Nation of Islam Mosque number 7 here in Brooklyn. So those are our two guests. Charles?
Well, you know, P.O.W.E.R meant a lot to Inez and I, him and his wife, Muntu. They were more than comrades in struggle with us. They were actually close friends. P.O.W.E.R was concerned not only about the politics of East New York, as he brought a bus to East New York and had us all, about 50 of us on the bus, 40, 50 of us, said, bring $100 because we're going to spend it all in Black business. There's one around East New York and really helping Black business. He's done so much, but he's a personal friend because he would call up and say, Charles, did you go to the doctor yet? Did you get an examination? What's your account? What's your account on this, on that? And he's the one who really got me to get more involved in my health. So for that, I'll be eternally grateful to P.O.W.E.R. So what we want to do is play a little clip before we hear from our guest. We have a little clip of P.O.W.E.R because we call P.O.W.E.R not just a radio personality, but a radio revolutionary. He was an activist. He was in the streets with us. And I mean, so many radio personalities can attest to P.O.W.E.R opening up the doors for them, whether it was Frankie Crocker, he had a good relationship with Gary Imhotep, Gary Bird, and Jerry Bloodcell. All of these great radio personalities came by way of P.O.W.E.R. And P.O.W.E.R was always concerned about us managing our own businesses, owning our own businesses, and taking control over the institutions that influenced or had control over the destiny of our communities. That was P.O.W.E.R. So here you're going to see a clip of P.O.W.E.R, not behind the microphone in a radio station, but in the streets with the people.
If you put what happened in this trial in a historical context, as we begin to talk about this travesty, and as we sat around and we talked about it and we started remembering the cases before this, the conversation went all the way back to 1955 in Emmett Till.
Yeah, that's right.
And everybody from Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin, every white law enforcement, sheriff, bully, thug, everyone was acquitted, no matter how heinous the crime.
That's right.
When Randy Evans was sitting on the front porch, the white cop who murdered Randy Evans said that he suffered from a rare form of epileptic motor seizure and temporary insanity, and the judge acquitted him. Those policemen who killed Eleanor Bumpers, you remember Eleanor Bumpers? She was an elderly woman who was terrified when she saw and heard somebody smashing her door down. She ran into her kitchen and picked up a kitchen knife, had no idea who was coming through her door. When the group of policemen who were at the wrong apartment knocked the door down, they immediately shot her to death, and they were acquitted. See, our experience is that no matter how heinous the crime, if the victim is Black and the killer is white, they will be acquitted.
That's P.O.W.E.R, the radio revolutionary in the streets. We're going to start off with Colette P.O.W.E and the December 12th movement because, you know, my close friend and comrade and friend in struggle, Viola Plummer, who made her transition, her and P.O.W.E.R were very close, and Colette was right there with them. So, Colette, could you tell us a little about your experiences and the D12 experiences with P.O.W.E.R?
I think you well said it. Viola and Bob would each say of one of the other that she's my friend.
Right.
She's my friend. And they meant that in a very profound sense of supporting each other's work, struggling around which way forward, looking at how at any given point in time the movement was shaping and how to make it impactful. P.O.W.E.R, they know each other from back in the days when the whole fight to get Black people prominence in the fashion industry, in promotion and graphic arts. Bob Law was a trained graphic artist.
Yes, he was.
Had worked in the field of marketing and design, was very involved in the whole promotion of Black beauty on the pages of magazines, was always promoting of Black excellence. He had a very proud sense of who we were as a people, and it manifested definitely in how he carried himself, but always in terms of how he wanted us to be portrayed. He took that from the fashion, marketing, advertising world into the radio field, where he was a program director. He was the program, he spoke on the air as well, but he promoted Black music, organized many different groups, but always it was not just the music for music's sake. It was the power in the music. It was a way to transform ourselves, to see ourselves. So he and Viola had many different projects and concerts, and work with children in different ways to promote the children having access, adults having access, and in that way influencing the movement, because it's never a dichotomy between, this is the political and this is the cultural. No, this was a whole renovation or rebirth, reaffirmation of who we are as a people, as a very proud people. So that was definitely, I was privileged to be around for many of those discussions. One of the things later on was there was a plan by Budweiser to put the kings of rock and roll, all of whom were white in their portrayal. So we had Bob Law, who knew many of the musicians, brought Leslie Uggams, brought Lloyd Price, who was a historic writer, and we boycotted, of course, when you talk about in the street, we boycotted those different places. And I think that brought together the deep and profound knowledge of our culture with the activist spirit of you have to influence it in many different ways, on the air, in the street. He was also very involved in promoting the political aspect. I remember some of the times you ran, Charles, Bob Law was instrumental in supporting that, because he thought that kind of outrageous, unafraid, unabashed pride was something that needed to be supported. So those are some of my early recollections, and we'll talk more as we go along. But I think that's the essence of Bob Law, a very proud Black man who wanted Black people to see ourselves and to seize the power economically, culturally, politically, and was always looking for how to promote that.
That's right. Brother Paul, how are you, sir? Assalamu alaikum. We always...
Walaikum assalam. Wonderful to be on.
Yes.
I'm telling you, I'm humble again, Sister Colette. I'm telling you, I'm taking notes. I'm sitting here, and I have to start all things. Of course, you know, I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, but I tell everybody I'm a junior Panther-tician under the tutelage of Brother Charles Barron for 20 years, studying how to be a community activist and mover. So first, let me just read. I don't get ahead of the minister. The minister wrote a letter from his heart about the passing of our brother, Bob Law. He wrote it on April 10th. On April 10th, and I'm going to share it with you right now. The letter is, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. The Most Merciful. I bear witness there's no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is Messenger. April 10th, 2026. Assalamu alaikum to the family and friends of Bob Law. We extend the greeting words of peace from all the members of the Nation of Islam and offer to you all our deepest sympathies and condolences on the loss of our brother, friend, companion in our struggle, Bob Law. Words are inadequate to express our gratitude to Allah for producing through his parents such a wonderful son and servant to the cause of freedom and justice as Bob Law. The tall man of 6'9", who ranked head and shoulders above most of his contemporaries and over those who claimed to work for the cause of liberation of our people, was a true giant. Bob Law was always working and studying to improve his service to our cause of liberation. His radio shows were monuments of study, knowledge, and commitment to the rise of our people. You cannot be this kind of servant and this service not be marked as a sacrifice of those whom he loved, whom we have been brought into this world and therefore suffer what he suffered and sacrificed willingly or unwillingly. Everybody attached to Bob Law had to make a similar sacrifice. He was a deeply spiritual man who loved his church and loved his faith. And he showed that in the way he carried out whatever he spoke, whatever he engaged in as work or service. He did it all with remarkable dedication and love. This is why this unusual man will be known and loved by those who have known him, loved him, and the many who will get to know him, love, or witness of his greatness as a great servant. Jesus said in the scripture, whoever would be great among you, let him be your servant. Bob's long record of service to us and our cause of freedom, justice, and equality are unequal by most of us who claim to serve. With great love and extreme gratitude, we thank Allah God for him, his wife, his family, his friends, his colleagues, and his students. He tried to keep his memory forever fresh by the good work that we shall do in the honor of his name. Sincerely, peace and love, your brother in service, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, alaikum salam. That's a beautiful. Paul, if we can get your image up, if we can get your picture up there, we appreciate it.
All right, here I am.
Oh, you're pretty handsome, brother. There we like.
Stop it. My wife is going to kill me. So you sitting around here in a t-shirt running around.
Go ahead, finish, man.
Man, I'm just humbled to be here. And Brother Bob Law, last year, Muhammad Ma 7C, I'm the student protocol director, not the minister, student minister. And we're here in Brooklyn, but we had the pleasure of honoring him. Gave him his roses while he lived at the gala we held last year, our fundraising gala. And I was speaking to him every day. The main thing he reminded me, Brother Paul, this, that, and the other, and make sure I got my bean pies. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's like somebody else I know. But I'm just gonna finish with this quick one. I don't have the hands-on working experience with this man, but this man moved me from afar. But and as a student at Hunter College during the days, I used to listen to things, of course, night talk. But then as I came into these teachings, that name just resounded with me, Bob Law. And then as I apply to teachers, and I'm just going to say this, we say there's two laws of the universe that are important. Law, L-A-W, and law is order. And when I think order is the condition of logical or comprehensive arrangement among separate elements. Bob was the man, I had occasion to sit with him, and he would teach like that. And I used to look, I never told him this to face, but I kept looking at his name, and he was always about order. And the first law of the universe is motion. And the second law is order. And anything he got involved with, he always tried to bring order to.
That's right.
And I'm just going to finish on this. We thank Allah for his efforts during the Million Man March in 1995. He was the New York State organizer, again, order. And in 2005, the Million More movement, again, he was right on top. So I thank Allah for his spirit and the order that he brought to us.
Well, Walaikum salam. Both of you were involved in some extremely important initiatives, particularly in the nation and right here in New York. Colette, remember the Freedom Party?
Absolutely.
Yes. A very important initiative. And although it may not be around now, what it did is setting the framework for others to pick up the mantle and continue it. Bob Law was right there. So I want you to expand on the Freedom Party a little bit. And then, Brother Paul, you mentioned the Million Man March, but talk about the significance of it and the importance of it nationally and internationally, and how Law and Viola Plummer was our New York reps. Colette?
Yes.
Certainly, I think the Freedom Party exemplified a lot of the different things P.O.W.E.R brought together. As we tried to build an independent, Black controlled, for Black people, by Black people, P.O.W.E.R had this thing that, people in the struggle chose this. They could have chosen to do other things, but they chose to make those sacrifices Brother Paul talked about, to put in the hard work to collect the petitions all across the state, to have meetings. And Bob was involved in many of the setting up, all in Long Island. I remember he had us going to all different kind of places in Long Island and bringing people from Long Island and Queens to Brooklyn. The constant agitation that it's not enough to just, oh, this is fine. And just, no, you got to get involved. You have to stay involved. That at every point in our struggle, what's the vehicle? So the fight to have a statewide independent party, he wholeheartedly supported in words, in deeds, in fundraising, in organizing different people to come out. In the look of it, as I say, that was all as a graphic artist. I think he carried that throughout. How is it going to look? How is it? Is it attractive to Black people? We also worked together in different. He didn't say boycotts, economic sanction campaigns.
That's what he called it.
I want to bring that out, and part of it was promoting that Black people buy out Black stores. So he would do different Saturdays where, as you would say, we're going to this neighborhood and just support. It was also, I remember, on a bitter cold. I don't know why it's always bitter cold. We were doing economic sanctions against Macy's, because it had been exposed that they were locking Black people up, Black people shopping in the store, and they would, had shore watches, and they had a jail underneath the Macy's. And so just that exposure of the indignities we suffer and the immediate response, not just talking about it on the radio, but in the same spirit as all of us who are on this call exhibit, being out there in person to make a difference. And as we speak of the nation, I would be remiss if I didn't say how very close P.O.W.E.R and Viola were to the minister and to the late brother Akbar Muhammad.
Yes.
But Sister Viola and P.O.W.E.R, but just speaking of P.O.W.E.R, had the highest respect, admiration, and gave his support to Minister Farrakhan from when, as he was rebuilding the nation and throughout and everywhere, and in the particular also worked closely with Brother Minister Akbar Muhammad, who was the international representative, and from Queens. So everybody else from Queens, and Viola will talk about, she knew Brother Akbar, just to digress a minute, from before he was Brother Akbar, from when it was in the not the 40 projects, in South Jamaica. Brother Minister Akbar was from South Jamaica. So these were people with long-standing relationships, and their families grew up together, their children, and I think that is also a tribute to the kind of man P.O.W.E.R was in terms of how he related to his family and his children and his spouse, as you said, Mantu, another aspect. But I think that was important.
Oh, very important. And, I'm glad you brought up Brother Akbar. I remember when he was Brother Larry X. And we had a very, very good relationship. And interestingly enough, the last program I've seen both of them was at P.O.W.E.R's church. When Brother Akbar and P.O.W.E.R were at his church, they invited us to come by. He, P.O.W.E.R is always into something. Like, come on, Charles.
Yes.
And so both of them were there together, and I'm glad I got a picture with both of them. So I found it like, wow, one week Brother Akbar was gone, next week, and there goes P.O.W.E.R making this transition. But you bring up something very, very important about P.O.W.E.R when he said economic sanctions. He used to always tell me, Charles, now it does make sense. We're talking about boycott. All right, so we boycott Macy's, and we tell Macy's, we're not giving you our $1 billion because you're not hiring us. Then they say, okay, here's 2 or 3 jobs. Now give me back your $1 billion. He said, that doesn't make sense. We should keep our $1 billion out, economic sanctions, and then do for self. Brother Paul, you want to stretch on the Million Man March, what it meant for us as a people, as an African people in particular, not just in America, but all over the world?
Yes, sir. And it's where we keen on the Million Man March. That's when I came into the nation. You know, I got a standing joke with Bishop Youngblood. Bishop Youngblood sent most buses from the Eastern Seaboard of any church, buses and cars. And I had, went to his church a few times. He had met me. He said, I sent you to the Million Man March and you joined Farrakhan. He said, but you still with me because I love him too. He said, yeah, you still with me because I love him too. They've been friends for 40 some odd years, like our brother Bob. It's interesting we're talking about this connection. At the time that a lot of y'all were doing a lot of work, again, I was a student at Hunter. I was an economics major and understanding and learning how to actually apply the conscience all around my life. I had always been surrounded by, knew I was going to end up here. I went to Frederick Douglass Junior High School in Manhattan, a school where Charles Rangel went to, Langston Hughes went up, one of the last graduating class there. Spent a lot of time in the Black Museum, the Schomburg, with that deceptive name, and learned a lot of things from Frederick Douglass. As I look at right now, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan right now, he's lost 3 companions in the last month and a half. Jesse, Brother Akbar, now Brother Bob Law. This is a sign. But when we mention, as a student of a lot of these folks, I didn't have the privilege. You had to work with them. But as I studied Jesse, because I studied Martin Luther King, the minister demands that we understand Martin. And look at the fact, but I see the nationalist connection. Now, when we go back to the Million Man March, an Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had called for a, can you hear me? He had called for a.
You froze now. We're going to get Brother Paul back. I'm sure he'll be coming right back soon. But, as we talk about the Million Man March and the Black and the Freedom Party, Inez, you want to have some introduction there?
Yeah, just briefly to say that as we talked about the Million Man March and St. Paul's Church under its leadership, Reverend Youngblood, sending buses and buses, our son, Jawanza, along with Allende Watson and along with Toussaint Washington, went with the contingency of the men that were there. Charles was traveling differently, but we felt comfortable to know that our children would be in a protected environment and that they were going to be exposed to something positive that would be a last with them for a lifetime. So we know that was very important. I wanted you to finish what you were saying, and then I have another comment.
Just one thing, somebody said that Bob Law was a leader of the cultural boycott of South Africa.
So with the Million Man March represented to all of us, again, I took my 2 sons. One was 4 and one was 14. And I decided, because it resonated in me that something had to be done. The minister said when he opened up his mouth and said $1 million, he couldn't pull it back. He said the law had put it out there, and he had to start getting the people to make it happen. But his spirit was because he knew the plans that this country had for us as men. And he knew that we had to get atonement. See, the Million Man March 19 was a spirit of atonement. It wasn't an economic thing. It was about the spiritual, because it's just like we know, we don't change the way our thinking, they'll get our money back overnight. So the main thing, we had to come to atone with ourselves, each other, our families, and our wives and children. So when he called the Million Man March on that day, when 2 million Black men, they can't jump and they can't count. So when 2 million, so 2 million Black men ended up jumping on a bus. And the only way I could really get, our bus broke down at the front of RFK Stadium. My 4-year-old said, "We came to march, Daddy, let's march." I just grabbed him and I said, "Oh, come on." So we got there, but the peace that you saw that day, I was there. No stealing, no robbing. It resonated around the world. We didn't ask Budweiser to sponsor. We weren't like up on Eastern Parkway. We weren't. Nobody had no sponsored back. It was us sponsor ourselves. The women who cooked fried chicken and fried fish and put us on a bus. Said, "You getting out of here today?" And we went and we stood together and we listened. And the minister, again, he let everybody speak before him. The naysayers, anybody speak. You know, our beautiful sister Maya Angelou, she spoke. The woman was there. She spoke. The minister wanted to show the world our dignity.
That's right.
Our sovereignty with God. You know, we are divine people. So the Million Man March showed the black man who we were portrayed like boys in the hood and thugs. You don't know the image they put. The minister wanted to show the world we are a people of God and that the men were leading the way. And I can only say this to you, with P.O.W.E.R, the minister is being guided so wisely. And he always leans to the fact that the nationalist community, as we put it together, that spiritual and that financial, Sister Colette, you touched on how to actually organize, that we how are we going to spend our money? But the first thing we have to do is clean up ourselves. So the Million Man March sent the resonating that we are civilized men, we are men of God, and we're going to go home to take control of our community and then build.
That's so true and so effective and so powerful. And we see the results of that in the months and years afterwards.
They had the greatest adoptive rate of children. They calculated that. They saw the children. They saw the crime rate go down in mostly every black community.
Yes.
They saw more businesses start. And I got guys out here now in Bed-Stuy with fish and chips. I started that. They went on to other things that started. We saw more stimulation of black businesses, enterprise, and adopting our own children. And the minister didn't tell them to go home and join the mob. He said, go home and join your church, go join something. He said, join and get busy building. And that's what we're talking about even to today.
Ashe, Ashe, so effective. As we talk about our brother P.O.W.E.R as a radio person, it was P.O.W.E.R, for those persons who don't know him, who had night talk.
That's
and
right.
It started at midnight and went till 5 a.m.
Right.
And the calls came in from all across the country.
That's right.
P.O.W.E.R would bring about topics and people were hearing and listening. And he would probe you. He would probe you. He would get you to comment. Call in. He put out a question and he would wait for you to call and he would comment and there would be dialogue on that question. But he didn't just stay behind the microphone. As we saw in the first video, he was in the streets. He was interacting with the people. He was getting them to understand and make the connection between the incidents that were happening and our long history of being oppressed and being subjugated. And he said, do something. Get out there. Get involved. He also ran the Respect Yourself campaign.
That's right.
He talked about his understanding of culture and the greatness of our people. He projected that, of course, by himself, in himself, and he pushed that kind of image for people to see, to go inside themselves and demand that kind of respect and find it in themselves to understand that they have a greatness in them. And we talk about P.O.W.E.R being involved with children. My friend Elise said that he encouraged her son, Ayende Watson. Ayende was doing a little drawing and he says, oh, you're an artist. Well, we have to make sure that your mom goes through your collection and selects something so that I can post it on my wall. He was very much involved in young people and trying to help mold them and give them a positive image. And there were several young people who talked about the impact that he had on them at their lives. And we know that that's great for him. And he had that impact as well.
Colette, he had a real interesting interviewing technique. I've been on Night Talk a few times. If you think you're going to go on P.O.W.E.R show with some empty rhetoric, you got another thought coming. Because when you finish all your rhetoric, his favorite phrase, okay, now what? You'll say, man, we are this and that. We as a black community, we got to get, now what?
Yep.
Now what you going to do? So he was always pushing us further. And as he got into the electoral arena and into economics, P.O.W.E.R, he also was a brilliant intellectual. You know, he was more intellectual than people might want to give him credit for. He was a brilliant intellectual, but he was an intellectual activist. He was always out there in the streets. Colette, or you want to say something?
No, Colette, go ahead. I'll wait.
Sure. I wanted to add, we haven't talked about he practiced what he preached.
Yes,
So
he did.
Muntu had Namaskar, where in terms of health food, health drinks, health this, health supplements, and of course it was a beautiful store. And then he opened the fish store on Vanderbilt, which was also, it was just, the food was exquisite, as his sister was talking about.
I think
But
it was
it was a hangout spot as well. People would come through and discuss and talk as they would do at Namaskar. So it was the idea, it was the practice and the idea. I forgot to mention, he was one of the people who helped organize the Millions for Reparation in Washington, D.C. as well. Which again, I think, as Brother Paul talked about, just the unity of people from different spheres, different areas, different organizations, who take up an idea and implement it. Sister Viola, when we came back from Durban, South Africa, the World Conference Against Racism, the call was to, in your own countries, lift up the issue of reparations. So as we go into the 25th anniversary of Durban this August, it really is good to see how many as Brother Paul said, they can't count. The Parks Department said there were over 50,000 people there at that large national rally for reparations in August 17th, 2002. But Bob Lowe was involved in organizing, getting the word out through different radio connections, through different this and that, different people. I think the lesson of his life that we must live is continually seeing how we can push ourselves forward, push our people forward, how we can unite with folks who we may not agree with all the way or have exactly the same point of view, but who have the same principles. And these times really call for that. These times call for those of us of like mind to really work ever closer together. So I think that is one of the lessons definitely of Bob Law.
Without a doubt. I just, can I say something?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
As I remember sitting with him, and he intrigued me because he had those stories. He had and these parables. So I love the one about the pigeons. I know y'all know about the pigeon people. And he was talking and he was teaching it, and I was going like, pigeons, they can fly well, but they walk all the time. They're all on the ground, but they're one of the best flyers. And he would talk about the pigeons would wait for somebody else to build a nest and then take it over after somebody else had built it. So I'm sitting there listening to him, going, them pigeons sound like some folks I know. But he was shown the example of how we had conditioned to become pigeon people. We had to be, one of the best flyers can do it are pigeons, but they would wait. They got up late, looking around for somebody to feed them. The other pigeon, so I said, "Ooh, that was a good one," because he had me going for a while when he was telling the story. Till I realized he was using a parable to bring it to mind. And then after listening to him, I think somebody, and I'm gonna take the description of him as a student. When I used to listen to him, I used to hear, and he did more for young folks. We would have dialogue. I mean, in between, you got the partying going on. Bob on at midnight. Bob, I got to get out of here, man. The party going on. You talking, but you stuck listening to him. Yes. And one description of him is that he was a transformative icon.
Yes, he was.
And when you think about transformative, what he did for myself and students, I'm getting ready to graduate and never did. But but I can always go back with it. The transformation was my perspectives, and he would open up your mind to things, and it was an enrichment. And so when he was the epitome of that word, transformative. With the foolishness we may think on one level, he would stimulate you to go beyond that. And I think when you see his speech when he was with the minister at Power at Last. And there was the 1985 and the series that was in Los Angeles and also in California. And Bob walked on the stage and he said something. This is our brother. And he left you hanging about what was going to be the end if you try to harm our brother.
Right.
See, he left you hanging. Basically, This is our man. We know. But again, when I came in, and I was blessed, like I said, under the tutelage of you, Miss Mother Plummer, Vivian Bright is still here. And I sat back and I would sit and watch y'all work. And then I would see y'all align with a man like this. And let me know that connection, the minister loves you, Charles. He gave us instruction when you was running in 2000. Remember, I was chasing you around. You thought I was thugging. He called uptown on me because I'm. but I was instructed to let nothing happen to you, Charles. It didn't happen to call Hafiz on me, Bill. But I knew what I had to do because the minister loved you and gave us instruction about you. So the minister, and again, I got the point to that connection where we make a sister collect touch them. We call nationalists. We're Muslim. We are people who love our people and have an approach to the end, which is freedom, justice, and equality. And when I don't care what nobody say about the Barons. Well, I do care what they say. I'm trying to stay away from the ones who get too disrespectful. I've turned off the camera. But I'm just saying to you, they can't turn me away because I saw what they've done. Twice as much of any politician building homes for our people we can afford. Set the tone of self. You don't walk into our community, and the operative word is our. See, Charles put that force and power with his wonderful wife there, and it became our community because they had the leverage and the power to make it our. So when I watched him and he says that he lined himself with brothers like Brother Bob Law, and I listened to him, I could see the connection.
That's right.
I can see the connection. And this is what we need as a people. So Bob Law represents, again, I said, I saw his name, Law and Order.
Thank you so much. And I also want to add some other ventures that Brother Bob Law was involved in. He was also involved with the movement to shut down the, quote, musical, the Scottsboro Boys. That's very much involved in getting that shut down successfully, along with D12 and CMOTAP. And then also, Charles said, he said, now what? When Katrina hit, and in the aftermath of all of that tragedy, the United States did nothing for days. Bob Law was again involved and said, listen, we're going to collect food, we're going to collect items, we're going to collect canned goods, we're going to collect those clothing things, all of those health hygiene needs, and we're going to get a truck, and we're going to be parked right on Fulton Street in Brooklyn. We're going to load it up, and we're going to make sure that our people get that. So that was another venture that he was coordinating, and I know December 12th was very much involved in that as well.
The reason why both of you were so important to come on with us today, not just because you're linked to Bob Law, like all of us love Bob Law and respected him, but for the movements that both of your organizations have been involved in over the years. If it wasn't for the December 12th movement, I think people in New York would know nothing about Zimbabwe. Matter of fact, you have something coming up about Zimbabwe.
On Monday at Sister's Place.
On Monday at Sister's Place. I'll let Colette announce that at the end. But internationally, what D12 has done, internationally, you know what I thought was one of the greatest things the minister did after the Million Man March? And by the way, I had an opportunity to be on the stage. And when I looked out there, oh my God, the sea of humanity. I'm telling you, y'all said 2 million, but I don't know where it stopped. Because whether you look, it was endless. If you look straight ahead, it was endless. You look to your right, it was endless. It had no ending of humanity. And you remember they made a big deal and should have of the 250,000 that was at the March on Washington in 1963, 250,000, 2 million. And I saw these 2 million with my own eyes.
They were still coming 6 hours after it started. People were still arriving.
People were still arriving. So, and then for us locally, we appreciate, there is no Charles and Inez Barron in Operation Power without the December 12th movement, without the Nation of Islam, right in our beloved East New York. Y'all were right there for all of our campaigns. We get a lot of credit, and we should. We are hardworking and does things, but not without the December 12th movement. Was there from the beginning. The Nation of Paul, Brother Paul, you're a minister. You up there a little bit in the nation. I call you up. You get yourself some petitions and get some paper signed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Asking people to sign for Charles and Inez Barron.
Please, let's do it.
Islam. Colette, you up there in the December 12th movement. She was the manager of my congressional campaign.
That's right.
She shook up the whole political world. They didn't think we were able to get enough votes against Ed Towns. We almost beat him. They had to throw in there to stop our And then D12, the center where we met for the Freedom Party was at Sister's Place. That's right. That was our headquarters. And we were able to get 43,000 signatures.
Listen to that.
Statewide.
Listen to that.
Statewide.
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 We were able to end up with 25,000 votes. How much money we had, Paul? Call that $40,000?
Not enough. We always have this fight, Brother Paul. I said, we got to do fundraising. Charles said, money doesn't vote, people vote. I said, yes, we need the money, Charles. Fortunately, Bob Lowe was on my side of that equation.
I was the hardest candidate for poor Colette. She didn't know what to do with me.
Oh, man.
But look, we thank both of you so much. We want to end it with a little tape that we have from Bob Lowe. One of his last interviews, once again, he was talking about some economics with some brothers. So, Brother Kiru, can you put that on?
In this society right now, well, it's not even being promoted in this society. What is being promoted to black folk is individualism. Yes, sir. While every other group is being organized around group consciousness. Every other group is concerned about the prosperity and even the supremacy of their own group. Black folk are still trying to be multiracial, multicultural, multi-everything, and are reluctant. We even had a group of black men who ran for office in this last midterm election, and all of them ran as white men. And they said they were running, they were going beyond race. Now, couldn't possibly mean, well, I don't know what beyond race means, because it didn't mean that they were broadening their appeal. As I understand it, when you go beyond race, that means you stop talking about certain kinds of things. You stop talking about yourself. So you don't broaden your scope, you narrow your scope in order to get beyond race. But I need you to be clear, what they mean by beyond race is they ran as whites. When they ran as white men, they lost, which is going to cause some of them to rethink. And even more so, it's going to cause the Democrats and the Republicans to rethink whether or not they need those Negroes, because they couldn't win beyond race. Every other group in this society is focused on group progress, while we are promoting individualism. So black people think that we are making progress because there's a black guy running Time Warner. You know, black people are gratified because Ken Parsons, I believe is his name, who runs Time Warner, or not Ken, Richard Parsons. And so black people are gratified. Black people are happy because Oprah is rich. Black folk are pleased because there's a black guy, Ken Chenault, is the head of American Express, as though that has something to do with your American Express account. But when any other group promotes group progress, all right. So you are here because you understand that. You are here because you understand that everything black has been pushed to the margin. Everything black is now unacceptable, problematic. And what we are saying is that we've got to bring black back.
Bring black back. And so we're talking about that now. We have Omali Yesha telling them how the Black is Back coalition. This is what Bob Lowe was talking about. And he also spoke out against, you know what he used to say? He said, Charles, we need to stop just mentioning the negative raps and negative video games. We focus on that and we should, you know, criticize it. But we need to talk about them promoting positive rap.
Right.
As to just talking about negative rap. We should say we want these radio stations to play positive video games and positive rap music. Because when you just talk about the negative, then even if they stop that, which they will not, it's still not promoting anything positive that KRS-One might be saying, or positive that Dead Prez might be saying. And Tupac has his balance of sometimes positive and sometimes street reality, as he would say. So P.O.W.E.R was a champion of that as well. So we got about a few minutes left, and each one of you, if you'd like to make a closing remark, and then I'll kick it to Inez, and we're out of here. Great show, and we honor P.O.W.E.R.
Yes, we do.
We think that in the spirit of remembering is in the spirit of taking up the work, that as we indeed have lost many people who were, I know for me personally, very influential in my development, for our community, put out so many positive ideas and strategies and tactics and how to do it and pull it together. And so we must be ever more active and ever more following the example that they left us. And that is how we honor their legacy.
Right.
Brother Paul?
I'm going to say exactly what our sisters said, and we actually are engaging right now during this time. I sent you a flyer earlier. We're doing something historically that has not been done in years in Brooklyn. Having 2 mosque meetings at the same time within the city. One is going to be the Restoration 1368 Fulton Street, and another at our headquarters here in Brooklyn, Mosque 7C, 202 Pennsylvania. Now, the significance of this is that Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us a charge when we came back. He had started back in 2012, and we back on it again. Is you must help to make our communities, we must help to make our communities a decent and safe place to live.
Absolutely.
That's the theme of every mosque meeting, though it's a mosque meeting, but then we're going to have Saturday groups where we'll meet and set up little cells of committees in each community. I don't care if you're Christian, whatever you Hebrew. It's about the collective effort. We must help to make our communities a decent and safe place to live. So April 19th, this Sunday at Restoration, 11 o'clock, is our first meeting in Bed-Stuy that we're doing outside of the mosque simultaneous. We're going to do some more around the borough because we're in the house of Brooklyn in the house. You know how that goes. So we got a big borough here. We got a big 2 million people, and about half of them is up. So we got work to do. But the theme is we must help to make our communities a decent and safe place to live. We're looking to see folks at Restoration Plaza at 11 o'clock, and we'll be up. We're not abandoning home, 202 Pennsylvania, Mile 7C, and we'll keep the folks informed. Thank you.
Want to announce what's happening with Zimbabwe at Sister's Place?
Monday, April 20th at 7 o'clock at Sister's Place, 456 Nostrand Avenue. We're going to be celebrating the independence of Zimbabwe. It's the 46th year since they won the fight against the British. It is more than 20 years since they took the land back and have kept building their economy, have kept increasing their outreach, and broke the look west policy to look east, to say that we as Black people can trade with whoever, increase inter-African trade. So for all the things Zimbabwe has done, we're celebrating Monday, 7 o'clock at Sister's Place, 456 Nostrand Avenue. And I know I have sent it all to you, and I hope to see all of you there on Monday.
We'll be there. We have Wanda Williams, who said P.O.W.E.R has also led and was deeply involved in the Katrina crisis. Thank you for the education. Thank you, P.O.W.E.R. And I just saw Joyce Brayboy's remark up there from Operation Power. She said, "Long live the legacy of our legendary ancestor, P.O.W.E.R. Rest in paradise and in power." So we want to thank our guests for coming on. Inez, you have any?
Just want to also mention that as we talked about P.O.W.E.R trying to make sure that we accentuate the positive in our culture, in terms of the music form, that he also was fighting, and I was representing him in the fight to get a resolution introduced in the city council so that that would be a focus and that the body of the city council would make that stand and make that statement. It was a fight. We're still fighting. We're going to continue the fight.
Right. Well,
I want to thank our guests so much. Thank you for being with us.
I want to thank our guests once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
All power to the spirit of Bob Law. Rest in peace, brother, for a job well done. And as we say every week, by the way, tomorrow on WBAI, we're going to have his sister. Boy, did she read that obituary at the, and she's going to be on with us tomorrow, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on WBAI.org. So check out his sister who'll be with us. We want to continue to honor the legendary and the friend of ours, especially Bob Law, Sister Viola Plummer and I. That's my friend. That's
yes.
Rest in peace, my brother. We say each and every week that the truth shall set you free, and power is the great equalizer. Black power.
Black power.
Black power.